Today, our nation honors a great man who had vision. This community has some visionaries as well. Meet one of them. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning and happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Seacoast Medical Center on Highway 9 in Little River. We're focused on the Loris Seacoast Healthcare Foundation, and we're visiting with one of its board members and the president and chief executive officer of the Loris Healthcare System, Tim Browne. Good morning,
Good
Tim.
morning. How are you?
Thank you for having us in. I guess you're our host kind of this week.
Absolutely. We're very glad to have you.
Tammy Eves was kind enough to come in yesterday on Sunday to help make sure this was set up nice for this morning.
Absolutely.
Of course, on the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. And of his birth, it's a big day to be here.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you and your team here today.
You know, a lot has to happen to make a foundation successful. A lot has to happen over the years, of course, to make a healthcare system successful.
Absolutely.
Give viewers a little sense, if you don't mind. We want to get into you, but for viewers who may need to get off to work or get family off to school, I want to make sure they get a good sense of what Loris Healthcare System is all about.
Absolutely. Well, and it all started with an idea at the local Civitan Club in Loris in the 1940s. It actually was an idea at the Civitan Club. A group of visionary men decided that Loris needed a hospital. And so they took the necessary steps to work through the General Assembly in the state of South Carolina and got the legislative act set up to create the Loris Community Hospital District. And with that, they proceeded to raise money and secure the necessary funding and open a 23-bed hospital in Loris at the current location, May 15th of 1950.
Is that right?
That's
wow.
Right.
So you all have had some big celebrations recently
Absolutely.
highlighting either 50 years or 55 years. And soon it'll be 60 years,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so with that humble beginning began what is now today Loris Healthcare System. And the hospital in Loris evolved from 23 beds in the beginning to now we're licensed for 105 beds.
Is that right?
105 beds. And we had a situation where we needed to get into the long-term care facility business. In the 1960s, we got into the long-term care arena. And now we have an 88-bed extended care center, Loris Extended Care Center. The current facility opened in 1992, and it's a beautiful home-like atmosphere for those residents. And in 1996, we opened the Center for Health and Fitness, which is a great facility.
Oh, yeah, magnificent
great
facility. I've been
for
there
our
for
community.
Events and otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really serves three purposes. We do a lot of patient care there, a lot of therapies, cardiac rehab, pulmonary rehab, physical therapy, occupational therapy. And that facility is great. We have memberships that are available. We have about 800 members that work out and maintain a healthy
community?
Absolutely. They come there and work out and maintain a healthy lifestyle. And the other part of the facility, it serves as a community function. The middle name of our hospital is Community, and when we designed and built that facility, we actually made an auditorium that could be used for community events.
Oh, yeah.
The Loris Chamber Banquets
I've been
there.
to the Loris Chamber Banquet there.
Horry County State Bank has their annual shareholders meeting there. A lot of community events, wedding receptions. So
Is that right?
It's really like a community facility that's used by our facilities. And we also have two family health centers that are part of our healthcare system that were initially funded by Duke Endowment grants. And they're staffed with nurse practitioners with medical direction by a family practice physician. And those are located in Loris and in Green Sea, Loris Family Health Center and the Mount Olive Family Health Center. Great facilities to meet primary care needs, and also reaching out to the medically underserved as well, which is part of our mission as well. Those facilities opened in the 90s as well and still are very vibrant and working today.
Right.
And of course, you're here today at Seacoast Medical Center,
I love it, yeah.
which is the largest outreach project in the history of our healthcare system. We opened it in 2000. And we've got some exciting plans for additions here, exciting plans for additions in Loris that we'll talk about.
Right. Yeah, well, this is a magnificent facility. I don't think folks know what they're going to get when they pull up here, but it seems to go on, and of course, by the end of, I guess, 2009 or 2010, it'll really go on and on.
Absolutely. We've got some great plans for this facility. We've been serving the needs of the North Strand communities since 2000 as a comprehensive outpatient facility.
Right.
We have a 24-hour ER here and all the ancillaries to support that 24-hour ER. We also have all the disciplines associated with the rehabs that I mentioned earlier, the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, the cardiac and pulmonary rehab. We also have an ambulatory surgery center here where you can come and have day surgery. And then we have over 40 physicians represented in offices located on the second floor of this facility.
Right here in this
facility.
Boy.
So it's sort of a one-stop shopping atmosphere for outpatient care. And now we're going to take it to the next level with our inpatient beds that we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah. Real quick about yourself, Tim. Well, actually, if a viewer needs to get off to work now or get family off to school, we've been focused, or we will be later this week, focused on the Healthcare Foundation. If a viewer wanted to learn more about the foundation, what's the best phone number for someone to call? And do you all have a website?
We do. We do. The newest entity of our healthcare system is the Loris Seacoast Healthcare Foundation.
Okay.
Tammy Eves is our executive director,
Right.
and her phone number is 843-390-8215.
Okay.
And our web address is www.lorishealth.org.
Very easy. And there's a link there to the Loris Seacoast Healthcare Foundation.
That's correct.
Great.
That
Well, it's got great information on there. We were there early this morning. And, of course, as you pointed out before we started filming this morning, Tim, it is the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr., but hospitals are open 24/7.
Absolutely. We're here all the time for everyone to meet their health care needs.
About yourself, Tim, are you originally from the area?
I'm originally from the PD area over in the Hartsville area.
Oh, great. In Darlington County.
In Darlington County. I grew up there and finished high school there and then went off to college and finished with a bachelor's and master's at USC in Columbia.
So you've remained in the Palmetto State for much, if not all of your life?
Well, actually, I left the state in '83 and lived out of state for about 15 years and wanted to get back home to the Palmetto State and came back to serve as the president and CEO of Loris Healthcare System 10 years ago.
You joined as the president and CEO,
That's
not
correct.
climbing. You know, we were with Phil Clayton on Friday, who I think came into Conway as a CFO or otherwise and held different positions before attaining the same position you have here.
That's correct.
So you actually came here for this.
I came here to work with our board and to work in this area and meet the needs of the citizens in this area with their health care needs. And the vision of Seacoast was here, and this was an exciting thing to develop along the North Strand.
You mentioned one thing that a lot of folks probably don't think about, our board.
Right.
You know, you've got a board. You are actually directly responsible to a local board of local residents who really impact both what you do and what the entire Loris Healthcare Systems does. Share with viewers a little about the board itself. How exactly is a community hospital set up, and why is there a need for community hospitals?
Absolutely. I work for a 9-member board, and those are people that live and reside in our communities that we serve. They're actually appointed by the governor.
Is that right?
Through recommendation of our Horry County delegation. And these are people that have a strong interest in the area and the residents that live here and meeting their health care needs. And our board is a very compassionate board, and they are very interested in making sure that we're planning services to meet the needs of the citizens that are in our area.
Right.
And they're a great board to work with. They're my bosses, and we all work together as a team.
And it is important to think about it that way.
Absolutely.
You are directly responsible to folks right here in the community.
Absolutely. And they're real focused on meeting the needs locally. We don't have to worry about someone from out of state directing the activities of what we do. They're really focused on meeting the needs of the communities we serve.
That's tremendous. Yep. That's tremendous. So an active board there. Well, why a community hospital? I know, again, as we talked about, we were with Phil and the folks there from Conway Medical Center, focused on one of their upcoming galas next weekend. But of course, hearing him talk a little about community hospitals in general, what prompted community hospitals?
Well, I think one of the things that's so important is that residents need access to care close by where they reside.
Right.
And the people that are living in our area, our area has grown so tremendously. We've had the hospital in Loris since 1950. We now have plans to build a hospital here at Loris, at Seacoast Medical Center, a 50-bed addition. And the residents of the North Strand and the southern Brunswick market deserve to have a community hospital in their immediate area to meet those immediate needs. We're not going to offer tertiary level services at Seacoast, but all the basic community hospital services will be offered here when we have our new addition.
That's tremendous. And you think about it, as you highlighted, with where, and of course you'll be with Mary Martin on Thursday, who I believe is Executive Director of the Little River Chamber of Commerce.
Great lady.
Little River's a booming area.
Absolutely.
North Myrtle Beach with its own chamber. We'll have Frank Bolino here with us, who I think is the chairman of the foundation board, on Friday.
That's correct.
And to think about the booming area of North Myrtle Beach, and that these two communities don't even have their own community hospital.
That's right.
So I think that Loris would have gotten one back in 1950, but and so you are really opening and expanding the role
Absolutely.
for this facility here.
An interesting statistic is that when we filed the paperwork for the original Seacoast project in 1998, and we began construction here in 1999 and opened in 2000, the population of North Myrtle Beach and Little River combined was the largest population base in the state that did not have a 24-hour emergency room in their own community.
Come on.
So we met that need.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate, and now we're doing 20,000 ER visits here annually, both from residents that reside in our community, plus our tourist population, which is significant.
Well, you mean 20,000, not just this facility. You mean 20,000 for the entire Loris Healthcare system?
We do 20,000 visits just at Seacoast Medical Center in the ER. We do another 20,000 at Loris Community. So system-wide, we're seeing about 40,000 ER visits a year now.
That's gigantic.
Yeah, it's a lot of patients.
That is gigantic. And to think that when they're meeting in the Civitan there in whatever year that was, 48, 49, getting ready for 1950.
Absolutely.
To think of that, can you imagine those folks would have ever dreamed
Well,
that?
they're great visionaries. E.E. Prince and S.F. Horton are still, today they're both gentlemen in their 90s, and they were true visionaries that were part of that beginning. That saw the whole thing just from its humble beginnings.
A lot of visionaries in the Loris area that folks may not know about or take for granted as you think about the strength and the importance of Horry Telephone Cooperative.
Absolutely.
And its depth there. You think about the foundings of Coastal Carolina College, now
Absolutely.
the university, much of that coming out of the Loris area, and now to the expansion of Loris Healthcare Systems, not only here, but as you all continue to expand, I suspect you're probably already seeing a need right now to begin pursuing what may be a certificate of need for even more beds in the future for this area. This 50 is such a small number compared to what the need probably is.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. There will be an additional need once we get this 50 construction. We are hoping to, through our Loris Seacoast Healthcare Foundation, we are very optimistic about raising funds to help us do this project. As a community hospital that's not for profit, we receive funds for taking care of our patients, but we also know that we need additional assistance in raising funds to help us with our strategic objectives of the 50-bed addition at Seacoast, as well as the new ER ICU that we're planning at the Loris Community Hospital campus.
Family here in the area, Tim. Do you have family with you here?
I do. My wife, Nancy, and I have two children, Caitlin. Caitlin's 15, and Austin.
Your daughter's 15.
I have a 15-year-old daughter, Caitlin, and I have a son who's 11, and his name is Austin. And they're my treasures. They're my life.
And to think for you and for them, if you arrived here 10 years ago as a president and CEO, even the expansion just in that short amount of time, not only seeing them grow, but seeing Loris Healthcare Systems grow.
Absolutely.
This must be particularly exciting for you. Are you rooted right there in Loris yourself?
Yeah, I reside in Loris. I sure do.
Right.
And I was with my son a couple of weeks back, and we were traveling the streets of Loris, and he looked at me, and he said, "Dad, look at all this traffic in Loris. Loris is not a sleepy little town anymore."